Actually, I don't really need to speak because Maria, you gave such a great explanation of the program. So thank you. Yeah, as Maria said, I was at University High School as a math teacher and then a part-time dean. And in 2007, I became a peer mediation advisor from my former principal, Lois McGee. Anyone know her? Really cool lady. But anyway, she just had a vision that we should start a program. So we were the only high school on the west side for LAUSD that had this program. And we started it very small, 6 students. And as I said last night for the people that were there, no knowledge of what it was. I mean, I taught math. I can talk about quadratics all day, but when I came to peer mediation, I'm like, what? So she gave me a lot of levity to go research. I visited a school, middle school did have a program, but they're not on, the West District of LA Unified. So through that, we started a program and we built it to the point where I would train about 35 students a year. Let me go to the slide. So I think you know what peer mediation is through what Maria said. It's a program designed for students, to work with students. It's just so much nicer when students can go sit and talk about a problem with their peers instead of, with an adult. So we'll have a table and you'll have disputant, mediator, and there's rules and guidelines that the students have to agree to before the process starts. A lot of times as the dean, I could say, would you rather deal with it from me where I have to call mom and dad and, possible detention, or would you rather talk to 2 other mediators? Oh, we'll go with the mediator. So no one ever really chose to have to deal with it with me it goes on the record. We have something called MISIS in LA Unified and everything would go on the record, and they didn't want that. So we would go to mediation and they would try to solve their dispute. They would sign a contract that they agree everything is confidential and neutral, doesn't leave this room. And I would say 99% of the disputes were resolved through mediation because the students, and I was always in the room, but I'm pretending I'm doing something in writing, but really there to kind of monitor. There's a point where if the students get stuck, they can have what's called a caucus, where each mediator will take the disputant outside and talk privately. Sometimes they would call me over and say, we don't know what to do. And so that's when I would offer advice. But as a rule, it was student with student. So does it really work? Yeah, totally, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it was the best part of my day to see students that would come in. So much with high school students is misunderstanding or social media. She wrote this about me, he called me this, and when they get together and they talk and they each tell their side of the story and only one can talk at a time, no mad dogging, no bad words unless it's part of the story, which they like because then they can say, what they called me. When they do that, they start to realize, well, they just believe what they heard. They don't go to the source. And then it spreads. And the big problem today, as you probably all know, what would you guess is the big problem with disputes? Coming from? Social. Boom. Who said that? Social. Let's give it up for you because that's
I didn't hear it.
Social media. Okay, I mean, back when I was in high school and middle school, people might have a little slam book or something that they wrote where they would say not nice things. But now they post it and everybody sees it. And it's humiliating, it's embarrassing. Some kids don't want to come to school, so that's a huge problem. And I've had to let them know there's repercussions of social media because even for when you go for employment, they check your social media, they check what you've written. And there's a story I tell them, it actually happened on Blue Bloods, but it could be a reality. Anyone watch Blue Bloods? Okay, so the assistant DA, Erin, her daughter applied to Rutgers, and the mom had gone there, and she's a great student, but she didn't get in. And when she questioned, they said, well, you should check your daughter's social media. She was having a problem with a teacher in high school at some Catholic school, and she wrote that the teacher was a bitch. And they said if she would write that about a teacher, what is she going to write about a professor? So they reneged her acceptance to Rutgers. So I tell that story, I just don't say I heard it from Blue Bloods. But I mean, because it could happen, right? They do follow through. So we try to teach them about social media and how dangerous it is and bullying. How long does it take? How long does what take?
Those are some
Peer
questions that people
mediation.
ask about a peer mediation. So how
Oh, you
long
mean
does
the individual
mediation
session? Well, it can take 20 minutes to 3 hours. I mean, I've had kids come in at period 1 and we went to period 4. Sometimes it goes, we can't finish it and we have to come back the next day. Ideally, it's nice when you have 2 mediators and 2 disputants, but there have been times when it's the whole soccer team is having trouble. So I would have 8 students, and for every student I have 1 mediator, because I want it to be a one-on-one, because you talk to your mediator, that we try to not let them have eye contact, they talk to their mediator. So it can vary from 20 minutes to over, a day. What kinds of conflicts, you name it. I mean, he said, she said, girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, drama, I mean, bullying, anything that they're not comfortable with, they will come. And the nice thing about doing the program after it was established, when I was teaching math, I would be like up here talking about, graphing an equation, and all of a sudden a student's at the door and they walk in, could I have a mediation? I really need one. They would like interrupt my teaching, but they're so comfortable. And then before, as a dean, students would walk in all the time and refer another student. My friend is starting to smoke marijuana and I'm really worried. They do anonymous mediation referrals. They can refer themselves. They refer, like we said yesterday, I've got teachers and students who want to have a mediation to try to resolve and get their relationship back on board. So, and also I've had to do some with a couple employees, like a couple office techs who maybe were having a problem. And when it involves a teacher and a student, I'm always one of the mediators, because I want to, I'm an adult, they're an adult. If it's just 2 students, I always have students do it. Sessions are arranged kind of as needed, and a lot of times I have to check their schedules. They might have an AP bio class that period, so as soon as I can get them in, as soon as possible, I would say. And the mediators know we do not talk about what happens outside. If they do, they have to bounce. Yes?
What's the consequence for breach of confidentiality?
Pretty much they bounce out of the program. I mean, sometimes I would put a student on probation, but we had an incident where a student applied. He interviewed really well, and we have work habits and cooperation that are E, S, and U on your report card. Excellent, satisfactory, unset. This guy interviewed really well, but he had, out of 12 possible marks, he had 11 U's. So it just wasn't going to work, because I don't want the criteria is that you have to be a 4.0 student. I asked for a 2.0, and basically, I don't care if you got in trouble either, because a lot of the students who had trouble in their earlier years are my best mediators today. So I look for, 2.0, I want you to not have all D's and fails, but not a lot of U's. So this kid was like an A student, but he had 11 out of 12 U's, unset. So obviously we decided he wasn't gonna make it. And one of the mediators went and told him, you're not going to be in, you have too many U's. And that was a total breach. So I had to ask him not to be a mediator anymore. I mean, I hold them like to this high standard. They're ambassadors of peace. So within reason. Now if I have mediators that sometimes got in trouble because they were caught ditching in the parking lot with a couple of their friends, I put them on probation for a month. That's not a throw out type of thing. But if you breach and you talk to them, and especially, that was a hurtful thing to tell that young man. It was bad enough to tell him, you're not gonna get it. But, so it's not a right to be a peer mediator. You earn it, but you have to kind of maintain the standard. Yes.
Privilege.
What type of
Privilege, thank you.
What type of expectation do you put on kids when they hear things that are reportable if adults heard it?
If they hear things.
Reportable to CPS, allegations of abuse.
Oh,
That
yeah,
comes out in
that type of
mediation.
thing isn't, the only thing we cannot talk about is anything but, anything that has to do with hurting yourself, hurting others, they come right to me, and that has to be reported to DCFS, or I take it.
So the kids are trained to
They
do
know,
that? Okay.
and they'll tell them, like, because you told me, I do have to tell Ms. Crowley, and yeah, that's absolute. Yes, Mr. Harper.
Is it true that there's also a teacher that's in the room during the mediations as well? Because one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know, you want to have a credentialed teacher in a room where there are kids or students.
Yeah,
And so-
I'm in every single mediation.
Right.
If I can't, sometimes because I'm the dean, something will go down and I have to come run over to the dean's office, and the rooms are right next to each other, so it was perfect. But I would have one of my colleagues, do you remember Miss Marianne?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she would come in and sit for me, because they're not volatile. There's never been a fight in 11 years, but it's just good to have an adult there, because you have to have a certificated person with them.
Right, and particularly when one of those moments comes up where they have that, where something is brought up about abuse or
Right.
anything like that.
But the kids are really good. They will come to me and tell me immediately, if, let's say I didn't hear it, but you don't miss stuff like that. Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Data question, who, where, and for how long, or the records, or I guess the chronicles of mediation is kept? Is there maintained for 2 years, 1 year, or how and where do future
Right.
cases refer?
It doesn't go on their record because it's confidential, but I do have a whole packet that's on the website. It gives you the application process, what I asked for, and I keep those in a box and I label them by the year, and I've kept them all since I started. So we could go back and refer, you know, I can see like how many we had 180, let's say, last year, and we can always look it up. I don't call parents on mediations because it's confidential. Parents know about the program, and even parents have sometimes referred their child to, can you talk to them, mediate them. But we do keep them, just not on public record where the whole school can see. Yes.
Are you, have you guys ever like done metrics to see how effective mediation has also allowed kids to like perform better, both academically and like graduation rates? Is that something that you guys are allowed to like do?
Yeah, well, as Karen gave a lot of data and statistics,
Yeah.
ours is that our suspension rate has gone down. All the mediators, I've never had a mediator not graduate. Not because they're like A students, but their sense of responsibility is so good. And when I interview, it's funny, if you want to be a mediator, you have to sit like at a table like you're at, and then we have a table here with myself and 4 current mediators, and we interview them. And they get so nervous. And then the year later, now we're interviewing new people, so the ones that had to sit there last year sit here this year. And they just love it. So why would you like to be a mediator? You know, what do you have to offer? And some of the kids, you can see their knees shaking because they're nervous, but I mean, it's a process to show that you just can't walk into the school and become one. And again, I have students who every year a teacher will say, absolutely don't take her, okay? She is nothing but trouble. But I always take someone who was nothing but trouble because they've gone through so much, and they're sometimes some of my best mediators. I also take a special needs student every year because it empowers them. I have a student who was so shy, she went through some type of anxiety where she would stand outside the front door, wouldn't come in 3 days a week. Her parents would have to come in and walk her to class. She couldn't speak in class, she couldn't do a project, and I made her a peer mediator, and OMG, what a difference. Walking in, hey Miss Crowley, how are you? And you know, it just, so it's not just about helping others, it's about helping some of the kids who, like Maria said, they get so empowered, they feel good about themselves. They walk around with this purple badge, Uni High Peer Mediator. I had like a 5 foot, maybe 4'11" girl go into it. The 2 boys were fighting at lunch really bad, and someone videoed it, and they showed me the video, and she walked right up to them and said, wait a minute, stop, do you guys want to be peer mediated? Which was good, but you know, they're like this big, and she's this big, and she went right in to try to break it up, and luckily, I mean, they didn't touch her or anything, but they just feel so empowered, and you know, they'll bring it to me. Yeah.
Karen, I have to watch time a little bit.
Oh.
Could you talk a little bit about the teachers and the administrators and their responses to the programs? Because that's something that
Yeah.
will go toward how you sustain a program.
I've been at conferences where people have said they have a hard time getting the teachers to buy in. I can't grasp that process because it's a support system for them, and they are more than happy to refer a student for mediation because it takes them out of their room, it gets them to talk to students, and I've never had a teacher say, and maybe they're giving an exam and they'll say, can they come after their exam? But they have never said, I don't want them to be mediated because it supports them. Faculty and teachers, it's really hard because they're so filled with their curriculum and their daily work. They don't have time to, like when I left this past June, I was pleading for someone to take the program because it's like my baby. And a lot of teachers they're just overworked, or they can't. Sometimes the principal will take a class away from them and let them have mediation as a class. But a lot of kids or a lot of teachers just didn't want to do that, or they thought it would be, they have so much on their schedule as it is. So I'm really lucky in that my principal supported it. I train kids every year. It costs $3,000. But how do you get the money? We did either fundraising, or we are really lucky. We work with the United Talent Agency at our high school, and they give grants. I think over the past 10 years they've given over $500,000 in grants. So, and they love our program, so they fund it every year. Yes.
How do you get buy-in from teachers about missed class time? Because you said some mediations could take first, second, third period.
Right. Well,
Did you get
the
first
mediators
aid?
sign a contract that if they're mediating, they're responsible for the work, and the teachers know that.
I see.
So, and there'll be some kids who will say after one period, Ms. Clay, I've got to get back to my next class. So I work with them, but the teachers know that they will be responsible for the work, absolutely.
How much training is required of a student before they're allowed to mediate with another student?
Well, Maria, you've kind of touched on that. My students get about 18 hours. They get a 2-day full training. Well, that's 16 hours. And then they come back in the fall for a follow-up for 4 hours. So, and then the best training is once they start doing it and they're out there. But if anyone can help start a program or run a program, to me, it's the best part. And the principal, loved it because he could brag that we have this at our school. And it's really a nice alternative to discipline, because as you know, we're not supposed to suspend anymore.
Who gets the $3,000? You said it's funding. Who are you paying?
Oh, the organization that trained us. With my school, I went with the Asian Pacific American Dispute Resolution Center, but you can say APA DRC.
So you bring in trainers.
Uh-huh.
You don't do the training.
Well, I'm there, but there's a professional group of mediators, that come in and train the students. And then I run the program and with them, but they would come in and do a 2-day training, plus a follow-up. So I think Maria's giving me you have to move on, look.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, this is always a long one because there's so many questions.
I'm afraid you're into Clayton's.
Wait, my bad, my total bad.
No, you're going in the wrong direction. Thank you, Karen.